Greetings and good morning from Milan Malpensa Airport. Today we are taking a flight on British Airways Europe Club Business Class over to London Heathrow, followed by a long flight across the Atlantic Ocean in World Club all the way back to Austin, Texas. It's been fun exploring Europe, riding on the local trains and visiting the attractions in both the Netherlands and Italy. Every video from this European series is linked below, so I suggest checking them out if you haven't. If you're curious about which to check out first, the ones I recommend the most are a visit to the Rotterdam Zoo, our overnight ride on the night jet, our scenic trip through the Swiss Alps on the Eurocity train, and our Italian rides on the Frecciarossa and Italo high-speed trains. You'll see which one of these trips was the best in my upcoming Best Trips of the Year video I'll be posting later this year. But all good things must come to an end, and in today's video, we're wrapping up the entire European series of videos as we're now heading back to the US. The trip back actually doesn't begin in the main airport, but rather in a hotel located right by the terminal. I had stayed here the night after arriving on my train from Florence the previous day. It's a little bit of a walk to the main terminal, but our flight isn't scheduled to leave for about 2 hours, which means that we've got some time to kill. Heading down to a lower level brings us to this enclosed bridge, which leads us right from the hotel to the airport. On our way to the terminal, I spotted some cool architecture as a few colorful sculptures were displayed in this tunnel. I don't know who made these, but comment me down below if you do know, as they certainly look cool. After walking a bit further, we soon entered the main terminal. Looking at the departure board, our plane, British Airways Flight 7834, was set to depart at 8:10 a.m. out of Gate 72 in Terminal B, which would be about 2.5 hours from now. Because I was traveling overseas, I had to go through some extra security and international travel procedures, and since it's against the rules to film in these places, this was the only footage of the airport that I could get. This ensures that nothing dangerous is brought on the plane and/or the new country, so that nothing disastrous happens. Now that we're through, we still got quite a bit of time to kill before our plane's departure. Luckily, because we're booked into business class, we have access to the lounge. The lounge in Malpensa really isn't that different from the lounges I've seen in most other airports, as it has comfortable chairs to sit and relax as well as a small bar where you can get some snacks and drinks, but there really isn't anything unique about this lounge, at least that I'm aware of. By far the coolest aspect of this lounge is the incredible view of the airfield and the runways. In Malpensa, planes take off and land quite frequently, and from here we can see just about all the action. While it may be as early as 6 a.m., since it's June, the sun is already well above the horizon, giving us an absolutely gorgeous view as it illuminates the surrounding cloud cover. As the early morning sun arises, a Singapore Airlines Airbus A350 makes its taxi in, having just landed. Soon after, a Wizz Air A321 makes its taxi from the hangar in preparation for its first flight of the day. As it does so, a Delta Boeing 777 taxis in towards its gate. About 10 minutes later, another Wizz Air A321 backs out of the gate in preparation for takeoff. As I was plane spotting, I happened to spot the airport's trash truck picking up waste. Many airports around the world have a trash system where the waste put into cans found around the terminals are put into these bins down there and then taken away by the truck. This helps manage the large amounts of waste that can accumulate through all the things being thrown away throughout the airport. After almost an hour of plane spotting, the announcement for our flight to London is soon made, so we can grab our luggage and start making our way towards the gate. Even once at the gate, there was still a bit of time to kill. To avoid getting left behind, it's recommended that you get to your gate about 10 minutes or so before departure like I did here, especially on international travel. After about 10 minutes, boarding finally begins and we can soon line up. As soon as our ticket is scanned, we can make our way down the gate for segment 1. For our first segment, I was traveling in British Airways Club Europe Business Class, which is the main use on their domestic airlines. Unfortunately, I was seated on the wrong side of the plane to get good views of other planes arriving and departing to pass the next 20 minutes before pushback. Fortunately, the time flies by, and before long, the gate pulls away and our plane begins its taxi towards takeoff. As we make our taxi, we spot quite a few other planes, including a few twin-engine turboprops idling in the morning sun. As a fan of propeller planes, I always grab a chance to get footage of them whenever I can. Someday I'll do content on propeller aircraft, but today's not that day. As the sun keeps ascending the sky, our plane aligns with the runway and our 2 jet engines power up, marking the beginning of the long trip home. Below, we get our final views of Italy, the countryside and towns slowly fading away as we make our ascent.
Very special welcome to those of you returning to the British Airways Club and those joining from our welcome flying partner. May I remind you to keep your seatbelt fastened.
The countryside soon disappears below us, marking our final goodbye to Italy and all the cool stuff we've witnessed. Now that Italy is behind us, now would be a good time to take a look at the Club Europe business class seating. Considering that it's business class, I had expected a bit more legroom to the next seat, as there was only a few inches in front of my knees. Despite that, there was still plenty of space to stretch out my legs under the seat, and due to the extra space, my backpack didn't interfere that much compared to many other airlines. As always, a tray table folds down from the seat in front and is pretty standard for most domestic airlines. Just below the table is the seat back pocket, holding the safety information card for the Airbus A320. As I've said before, it's unlikely you'll need to use these cards, but they're still kept around as you never know what hazards could happen. As usual, above the seats are reading lights for in-flight reading and air vents to keep cool at high altitudes. One thing that's rather interesting about the Club Europe business is that the middle seat is cut off by the second table. While it does lower the capacity of people per row, it also provides for extra space to snack on, get work done, and as I like to do, lie down and sleep during the flight. Pressing the button on the armrest here reclines the backrest a bit, but I wouldn't recommend doing so if someone is sitting behind you unless you want to annoy that other passenger. Last but not least, one especially beneficial thing about these seats are the outlets offered at each one. This is one thing many domestic airlines back in the US still need to work on, so I hope they take this into consideration sooner or later. As we continue to fly over Europe, the cloud cover soon breaks up, giving us a gorgeous view of the Swiss Alps down below. While it certainly isn't up close, we get a perfect aerial view of the snow-capped peaks. If you want to get a closer look, then check out our ride on the Eurocity train from Zurich to Milan, but for now, let's take some time to enjoy the beauty from up here. As the Alps disappear below us, our attendant stops by to give us a small breakfast. Mine were a few scrambled eggs along with some ham and sausage on the side. The meal was just about what you'd expect for airline food. Not great. The eggs were soggy and the flavor was rather dull, and the ham was quite bland. At least the sausage was pretty juicy. This is definitely no higher than a 3.4 out of 10, and I try to avoid this if possible, but if I'm traveling with British Airways, I'll likely be having it anyway. The ground begins to flatten out below us as we leave the Alps, and we can just barely see it from all the way up here. The cloud cover soon returns as we begin to cross the panhandle, which unfortunately means there's no view of the ocean below.
Landing in 30 minutes time, so 5 past the hour will be on the ground, and latest weather in London is still quite cloudy, very low cloud base today.
Before long, we begin making our descent, our plane making its way through the thick cloud cover. Soon, the UK comes into view, our plane soon coming in for a landing in London Heathrow. While we're just about done with this segment, we've still got thousands of miles to go before the journey is over, as we now have to cross the vast Atlantic Ocean. As we taxi in, we spot quite a few other planes, including a few Airbus A380s, the largest commercial airliner ever built. I plan on doing content on these planes someday, but with our plane now arriving at the gate, it's time to grab our luggage and make our way through the airport towards our connection. Now that we're off the plane, we can begin making our way through the airport and prepare for the much longer flight we have ahead. The departure board shows our flight number 6948 to Austin set to depart at 8:20 a.m., giving us just under 2 hours. To reach our flight, we have to shift terminals, and luckily the London Heathrow plane train has that covered. Much like in Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson, Heathrow also has a plane train system, which allows passengers to get around the large hub in a way that's faster than walking. It was still about an hour before departure by the time we had reached the next terminal, and thus we had a bit of time to spend in the lounge. The lounge in Heathrow is pretty much the same standard lounge as in Milan, however it was much more crowded being later in the day. The bar here offers quite a few fresh hot options, and while I wasn't hungry and thus didn't take advantage of them, I suggest stocking up beforehand if you have a long flight ahead like I did. In addition to the hot options, a few sweets are offered in jars over here, as well as some water dispensers to stay hydrated. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a whole lot of footage of the lounge, as our boarding announcement for our flight was made after only about 45 minutes, so we grab our bags and begin making our way towards our gate. Because security is rather strict with international travel, as I touched on before, I made sure not to film much of the airport, but after some walking and waiting, we soon make our way onto our flight and enter our home for the next 11 hours. Setting our luggage down, we can settle in and get comfortable for the many miles we have ahead of us. While we're now on board, departure is still not for another 40 minutes, giving us a bit of time to pass. Luckily, this time we've got a perfect view of the runway, an American Airlines Boeing 777 coming in for a landing, followed by a British Airways Airbus A320 taxiing out for departure. Soon after, a British Airways Airbus A350 makes its taxi in, having just landed. Paralleling the A350, another large A380 comes in for a landing. Next up is a British Airways Boeing 777, like the one that will be taking us back to Austin in just a little bit. Following soon after is a United Airlines Airbus A350, a Swiss Air A320, and an Air Canada A350. Last but not least is a Virgin Atlantic A350 coming in for a landing. Just before departure, my flight attendant came around to take my lunch order. I still had low expectations since it was airline food, but I opted for the grilled Scottish salmon, hoping that it would at least have some taste. Eventually, our plane finally backs out of the gate to begin its taxi, marking the start of Segment 2. Next stop, Austin, Texas. As we ascend, we get our final look at Europe for this adventure, and the last time we'll be seeing land for a number of hours. Its final goodbye as we enter the thick clouds, the ground soon disappearing below us. Eventually, we break through the thick clouds to the clear blue skies above. Without much to see outside, let's turn our attention inside and see what the Club World business class seats are like. The Club World is certainly a big step up from the Club Europe, offering loads of space to the next seat, making it very easy to stretch out and get comfortable. There is a tray table that folds out from beneath the screen. However, like on my trip to Europe, it wouldn't come out an inch no matter how hard I tried. I'm not sure why it wouldn't come out, as I later asked my flight attendant and she was able to pull it out just fine, but it is what it is. One bonus for business class passengers is the offering of onboard headphones at each seat. However, I opted not to use them as I had my own. Right next to the window is the small cabinet, which is useful for storing small laptops. This came in handy for storing my 2 iPads, as it's advised to do so during takeoff and landing. As well as the usual reading lights above, there's a smaller reading light found right next to the cabinet. For additional storage, a second cubby is found right below the windowsill. In here, a few outlets are found to allow passengers to charge their devices while in transit. Found just below the cabinets are the controls for the seat's recline angle. The middle button allows the seat to recline into a comfortable lounging position. The bottom button further reclines the seat completely flat, forming it into a semi-bed. This comes in handy for overnight flights when passengers are trying to get some sleep. Business class passengers are also offered complimentary water bottles at each seat, which comes in handy when staying hydrated at high altitudes. Last but not least, the safety information card for the Boeing 777 is stored right down here in the lower corner. The cloud cover broke up as we flew around Iceland. However, we were still well out over the Atlantic Ocean, meaning there was pretty much nothing but sea below us. As we continued over the Atlantic, lunchtime soon approached, and as a pre-beverage, our flight attendant delivered us a small glass of water, which was refreshing. Just a bit later, our attendant delivers us an appetizer of a few bread rolls along with some veggies, which I passed on. The bread rolls were only okay at best. The outside was crunchy and the inside was tender, but there just wasn't a lot to the flavor, which is just about what I expected for airplane food. After a bit more waiting, our main course, the salmon, is finally served. Despite my expectations, the salmon was actually a fairly tasty meal. Well, at least for airlines. The fish was juicy and tender, and the flavor was good enough to satisfy my taste. I chose to pass on the veggies served on the side as they're not my thing, but the salmon was good and made for an overall 7 out of 10 lunch. British Airways offers onboard in-flight entertainment on their World Club service. This includes a selection of a number of movies and TV shows that you can watch during the flight as a way to pass the time, especially on longer flights like this one. However, if you're like me, you can opt to download movies before traveling, as they may not have everything that you like. Ultimately, it's your choice whether to download your stuff or watch the onboard entertainment depending on your preferences. Taking a look at our flight status, it showed that we were flying over Greenland, which is comparatively close to the Arctic Circle. Unfortunately, the extremely thick cloud cover meant that I couldn't even get a distant view of the subarctic area. Bathrooms on the 777 are located at both ends of the airplane and are also sometimes found in the middle. Without much else to do, I figured I'd snag a quick look. The bathroom doesn't offer a ton of space, which is expected for an airplane. However, it seemed to be just enough to make the bathroom usable. The sink was working quite well, and the soap and toilet paper were well stocked, and considering that it was the midpoint of our journey, it was quite good. As with most bathrooms, a small trash can is offered to get rid of waste after usage. To flush, passengers can press this blue button right next to the toilet. However, I'd recommend covering your ears as it is rather loud. Last but not least is this table that folds down from the wall for tending to babies. However, it wouldn't come out very far, so I really don't see how useful it would be. Because we were traveling west and chasing the sun, it was daylight throughout the whole journey, and thus, as the staff turned off the lights, I tried to get some sleep so I'd have at least some energy when I arrived in Austin. My efforts to sleep only went so well. I probably only slept for about an hour or two at most, mainly due to the loud jet engines, and even the onboard headphones didn't do much. Considering this, I knew that once back in Austin, I'd probably be relaxing for at least a day to refresh myself. By the time I was waking up, our flight status showed that we were flying over the Great Lakes, now making our course due south towards Austin. The cloud cover broke up as we flew over the lakes, giving us some good aerial views of the water and the islands below. The Great Lakes soon disappear below us as we fly over the Midwest, the water soon transitioning to continuous farmland. The highways of Texas soon come into view below, indicating that we're almost to the end of our journey. Eventually, our descent finally begins, our plane breaking through the thick cloud cover. The Austin skyline finally appears below us, and eventually, our plane makes its final descent, marking the end of this extremely long odyssey. For the first time in weeks, we see that familiar blue, orange, and red livery of Southwest Airlines, making it clear that we're finally back on US soil. Now that we're landed, we begin making our taxi towards the main terminal, where our video will reach its terminus. I hope you all enjoyed this epic adventure in Europe as much as I did, and I will be back to explore other places in the coming years. Be sure to comment me down below if you have any ideas on what other European rides or attractions I should do in the future. Anyways, if you enjoy my videos, I suggest clicking a like and subscribing to the channel if you haven't, as it really helps support the channel and the content I produce. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to all the considerable growth on this channel in recent times, as it's a true motivation for me to keep making great content like this. There's a lot of cool stuff coming up soon, so stick around if you want to see it. Anyways, that concludes today's video. I hope you enjoyed the flight, and I will see you all next time. Take care.